Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome back from the weekend. Hope you had a good time. Let's jump into our cosmic weather, see what we're dealing with for today. All right. Our solar wind currently is 365.0 kilometers per second. Planetary K index, a 1, with a 24-hour max of a 1. We have this one coronal hole down here, which is taking place. And there are those who are saying that they are seeing a pattern, a square, or geometry in here. And if you do look at this, you do see a very significant corner. Here's another corner. There's another corner. So what we got is a big square right here. Or so it appears. So very interesting indeed. Just something I wanted to point out. Our chance for flares have dropped significantly down to 10% chance. Actually 5% chance. Geomagnetic storm activity is at 10%, 15% if you're in the higher latitudes. And anything else going on out there of interest certainly is the Jupiter and the Moon conjunction. If you were out last night or get out tonight and see that, Jupiter is bright and shiny out there by the Moon. And then we did have the CME would hit the Earth on the 19th. Did create some solar storms in the area, some auroras, but that's about it at this point in time. Okay. And we move from there over to our astrology for today. Alright, we've moved forward in astrology to a new sun sign. The new sun sign is now the sign of Aquarius. Aquarius. So we went from Capricorn now to Aquarius. Aquarius is an air sign. Even though it would appear that it would be water, because it's called the water bearer, it's an air sign. Now, air is all about words, actions, communications. It's a sign of movement. Things are moving with the air. So that's one of the things we're considering, that there's movement and activity that will be taking place. And then we have the idea of the water bearer. But water, in this regard, is the fluid of the universe, the movement of the universe. And the ideas being poured out by the water bearer are simply those. They're ideas. They're actions upon the world, ways in which we are going to interact with the world. So these are some of the ideas. Now the tarot card that relates to the card of Aquarius is the tarot card of the star. And the tarot card of the star is a card that teaches us the importance of remaining balanced with one foot on the land and one foot on the water, one on the conscious, one on the unconscious. That way we can be in synchronicity with all that is going on. Okay, our unconscious is a void, of course. We're between two signs. We're between the Taurus and the Gemini, between Earth and air. Okay, so the elements we're dealing with now: air on the outside, the conscious mind; underneath, the unconscious; between Earth going to air. So this is what we have to deal with. Moving from here, our moon phase, 74% of the way full, making its way up to that full moon again. We're still in the waxing phase. And on the Mayan Oracle, we're on the theme of the, right here, the theme of the eagle, which is vision. We're on the 4th day of the theme. The 4th day is called the self-existing day, or the self-existing tone. And the symbol for today is the mirror. Today is a self-existing mirror. The phrase is: I define in order to reflect measuring order. Seal the matrix of endlessness with a self-existing tone of form. I am guided by the power of timelessness. And on the Gregorian calendar, it is 21st of January 2013. Alright, so moving right along. Did you get a chance to get out last night and see the planets and the stars? If not, check them out tonight. Very, very bright. Boy, the moon is very bright. Jupiter right next to it. Very bright. Sirius, very bright out there. You can see Orion's belt, and pretty cool. All right, this first piece I'm going to get to today, this is from Spirit Science. I think you're going to enjoy this one. It's very, this is a good one, as they usually are. But check this out. Good information. Here we go.
At last, we've made it to the crown chakra. As we were starting this video, it became clear that the information that was available could not possibly be contained in just one short video. It had to be expanded into several to really do the topic justice. This topic is going to connect everything we've talked about in the past. Chakras, dimensions, crystals, sacred geometry, astral travel, heaven and earth. It's one of the most amazing topics. One that, if scientifically and spiritually understood, will completely change everything. And that's the key. It needs to be understood both scientifically and spiritually, not just one or the other. When both the left and the right brain sync up and understand each other, that is when the true realization hits you and things really start to make a lot of sense, like a light going off in your head. And it's perfect, because the topic for these next few videos is light. I also have a special surprise today. Teal Scott is with me, and she's going to be helping share some valuable information about light, enlightenment, and vibration. If we look at our ancient history, we can see references to light in almost every ancient culture in a multitude of ways. They don't ever believe light is just some electromagnetic phenomenon of the third dimension, but that light itself is intimately connected to the creation of reality, as well as connected to the center of the toroidal field at the center of your heart. In Egyptian culture, as well as biblical texts, light is the first thing that was created in the creation of everything. As it's often described, God or Source, Allah, Brahma, or any of these words for cosmic consciousness is light. Or perhaps that from this consciousness, light is the first thing to emerge.
You can think of the vibration of light as being the closest vibration to that of source energy. And this is why in human culture, God and spirit is so often equated to light. We all may be manifested in a dense physical way, but our truer selves are light beings. Based on the thoughts that we hold in our minds, our day-to-day choices, and the degree that we limit ourselves to illusion instead of awareness, we either prevent or allow ourselves from becoming a living embodiment of the light being that we are.
Over the next few videos, we're going to talk all about light, visible light, electromagnetic radiation, and spiritual light. And we need to make this distinction right off the bat, because visible light is only light that the eye can see. Electromagnetic radiation is all of the particles and waves that make up all of our reality, which are, in essence, very dense particles of light energy that manifest in a multitude of ways. Spiritual light, as I understand it, is the same thing, but on another level higher than that. Spiritual light is the light of awareness, the light of consciousness, and the light within your heart.
The first manifestation of the physical dimension is light, the kind of light that the sun projects and the eye perceives. This light most closely matches the frequency of the light that we can call spiritual light.
In many cultures, the sun was representative of this understanding. The sun is an excellent example of this. It is the nucleus of our solar system, the bringer of life and light, which was seen as a force akin to God. This is often confused by modern scholars to be some form of sun worship. There's a key difference between what we think is happening and what was actually happening. They didn't worship the sun. They loved it. They understood it. It is their cosmic father, as we've discussed before. The sun is the closest representation we have in this dimension to understanding source energy.
Source energy, that which we often call God, is unified potential energy. Being unified and potential energy, this means that in order to know itself, Source had to express itself in a way that would enable it to understand separateness and finite properties. And so, all of the dimensions were created. As the dimensions were created, the vibrations and experiences of each one became more and more separate in nature until it arrived at this physical dimension, which is where we currently find ourselves.
All around the world, there is an idea that is widely understood known as enlightenment. To be enlightened is to become aware of your spiritual nature, to become more aware to a greater understanding of truth. As it's often described, enlightenment is like shining a light on old belief systems that no longer work. Here's an example. On our planet, we had a movement that took place a few hundred years ago called the Industrial Revolution. What happened was that we ultimately became conditioned to a lifestyle where we worked with machines, 9 to 5, and basically became slaves to our own system. People stopped doing what they wanted to do and started working primarily for money. And maybe we weren't doing exactly what we wanted to before that, and the Industrial Revolution was the creation of something new. It wasn't bad, and what it did was propel us forward technologically. What then happened was our school systems adopted the same system, ultimately to condition our children from a very young age to get into the 9 to 5 system as well. At the time, we thought it was the right thing to do. What we are realizing now is that this system is conditioning us to become cogs in the wheels of our civilization rather than independent creators who are born and taught to go into the world and create something magical. And you can see a difference when kids defy the school system and do what they want. People like Steve Jobs chose to drop out of college and completely transform the way that we use computers forever. And Albert Einstein couldn't sit still in class and ended up revolutionizing the field of physics. So what does this have to do with enlightenment? To become enlightened is to become more aware of what is. And what is seeing and understanding the reality as it is. In this particular example, seeing that the current education system and even work system needs to be transmuted into something new, or as we like to say, reformed. So we become enlightened to the truth that our old systems don't work, and we'd like to make something new. Perhaps a school system where art and creativity is just as important as the maths and sciences, where kids are given the opportunity to learn about what they want to learn about, and grow in a powerful learning environment, and create amazing things from a very young age, such as the 13-year-old that revolutionized solar panels by using the Fibonacci sequence. To become more aware takes place on 2 levels. And what I mean by this is that it takes place internally and externally. The example I just gave you was external, becoming more aware of something that is fundamentally broken that we have created, and then finding new ways to fix it and turn it into something entirely different, and something that works from its core.
When you consciously make the choice to seek your true nature, you consciously make the turn back towards source energy. Thus, with spiritual practice, your bodily frequency becomes higher and higher until you physically transcend the 3rd dimension. The highest frequency that a physical thing can maintain without ceasing to exist in the 3rd dimension is light, which is why we call this process enlightenment.
Given that, enlightenment internally is where the real magic takes place. Across all of these ancient cultures that describes light and God, Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, and so on, the most consistent factor is that God is within you. God is the light at the center of your heart. The kingdom of heaven is within you, Christ said. And how interesting that the toroidal field pattern that is around all things is the same as the one around your heart. And that the very center of that field is a point of unity which connects you to a higher consciousness of the universe all around you.
When we allow ourselves to become a living embodiment of the light being that we are, we become a living embodiment of God consciousness. We become enlightened.
So when we become enlightened, as the Buddha did, we essentially become more aware of our divine nature. And by divine, I mean the aspect of you that is eternal, your essence or your spirit. And this can be described scientifically as well. We know that atoms are immortal based on scientific research. Atoms never decompose or age. Atoms that were present at the time of the Big Bang billions of years ago are still with us today in the same form that they were when they came into existence. When 2 atoms hold hands, they form a molecule. The same way when letters come together to form words, and words form together to make sentences. However, the moment that space is introduced, it separates all of the aspects into their basic elements. The meaning of the words and sentences disappear. Nevertheless, the letters still exist. In the word life, the letters are bonded together. If you separate the letters, it becomes a jumble. The word no longer exists, but the letters do, and it works the same way with atoms and molecules. So when atoms stop holding hands, the molecule dies, but the atoms continue to live on. Molecules create physical matter in this dimension, including our physical hearts, livers, brains, bones, and every other aspect of this reality is composed of molecules. When molecules separate and die, our organs deteriorate and age, and the atoms live on and become something new.
Light has not only wave-like properties, but also particle-like properties. Particles are in essence an energetic vibration that appears static. Static meaning unchanging and finite. The properties and behavior of particles is the reason that this physical reality looks static and feels finite and real to you. When we move back towards Source, we are moving back towards light, because light is the first physical manifestation of Source. We come through the experience of light when we enter this dimension, and we leave through the experience of light when we die. This is why when people die, they experience moving towards a white light.
Keep in mind that nothing really dies, but simply energy is transmuted. The energy that was created between the molecules do not disappear out of existence when something dies. It is simply transmuted. The consciousness moves on. When our physical body dies, our consciousness moves on as well. Our awareness is transmuted and moves into something new. The physical body can decompose, but we don't. We cannot. So let's bring this back around full circle. Light. Does light decompose? Is that even remotely possible? Light can bend, dance, shine, and shimmer. And when you break it apart, it becomes color and more finely tuned vibrations. Considering all things are vibration, perhaps the light energy that creates your being too is just a creation of consciousness within a field of possibilities, with you at the very center, sharing space with the rest of the universe. Enlightenment is understanding that you are not your thoughts, but the awareness of the thoughts themselves. Enlightenment is understanding that you have a right to exist, because you do exist, and so does everything and everyone else in existence. It is knowing and seeing truth, which is everything that is, without any preconceived ideas or stories being put on top of circumstances. Enlightenment is shining your light, sharing your truth, expressing yourself, and consciously participating in reality in your highest way. It is choosing growth over stagnation, even if it causes you discomfort. It is asking questions and questioning the answers, and always asking more questions. It's making decisions and then letting go and trusting that decision. It's acknowledging when you've made a mistake and hurt someone or broke something, and then cleaning up your mess. It's taking responsibility for yourself in all of your actions. It's also the understanding that you are not alone, and that anything is possible. That the kingdom of earth is external to yourself, and the kingdom of heaven is internal, the space where everything is connected.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. Today I have 6 stories. Let's jump over to them. Story number 1 comes to us from, well, this is an old story about proof of ancient aliens, 300 million year old UFO tooth found in Russia city of Vladivostok. The Voice of Russia is reporting that a 300 million year old piece of aluminum machinery has been found in Vladivostok. Experts say a gear wheel appears to be manufactured and not the result of natural forces. According to Yulia Zamanskaya, when the resident of Vladivostok was lighting the fire during a cold winter evening, he found a rail-shaped metal detail which was pressed in a piece of coal that the man had used to heat his home. Mesmerized by his discovery, the responsible citizen decided to seek help from scientists of Priori region. After the metal object was studied by the leading experts, the man was shocked to learn that the assumed age of his discovery. The metal detail was supposedly 300 million years old, and yet the scientists suggest it was not created by nature but was rather manufactured by someone. The question of who might have made the aluminum gear in the dawn of the time remains unanswered. All right, something to seek out and figure out. Moving right along from there, we go over to Miami, Florida. This was on the 17th. As you could see, these are the objects in question. Looks like our triangle object are separate ones. At first, at a glance at the video, I almost made the mistake of saying it is a reflection of glass. But when a car, truck, or person's herd passes in front of the glowing orb that disappeared behind it, that indicates that the glowing orbs are 100% real. They're in the sky. They are not reflected light bouncing off a window behind the camera. I love how the person zooms in and out so we see the landscape and get some idea where the sighting took place. So here we go. Now there's almost 10 minutes of this. So we're certainly not going to watch all that, but you can kind of see where it's going and what's up there. This is a very good video. A lot of good detail zooming in and out so you can see reference points of what's there in comparison to the land markings. Okay, let's move from there on to our next story here. This is over Georgia. Filmed over Tbilisi in Georgia. Alright, let's check this out here. It's a 4-minute video. There we got our 3 lights, unknown lights above the sky. This was this month. Alright. We've seen this plenty of time. This looks like our triangle. There we go. Alright. Links available so you can check it out. Moving over here, we have orbs hovering above Oakland, California. Okay, here we go. Multiple orbs there. So what is that? Just kind of hanging out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. Okay. It's very interesting. And moving from there, I have this story here. Man in Australia spots 50 UFOs in 2 weeks. Dundoo is an isolated village of 836 inhabitants situated within the Warrumbungle Shire of central western New South Wales, Australia. Dundoo is located 399 meters above sea level with the southern bank of the Talbragar River at the intersection of the Golden and Castlebrae highways. It is a relatively isolated township with 2 nearest rural centers of Mudgee and Dubbo, situated approximately to the 60 kilometers south and 100 kilometers west respectively. In the past 2 weeks, a man from Dundoo, New South Wales, has been spotting over 50 unidentified flying objects across the night sky. The man, who wishes to remain anonymous, contacted an expert to observe the weird UFO activity in the area. Here we have a video, nearly 7 minutes in length. Okay. I'm just going to zip through it here so you can get an idea of some of the what's going on up there. Okay, you can see them very faint. Alright. Let's move on from here. The video link is available so you can check it out. And our last UFO information for today. These are 10 cornerstones, important moments in the search for alien life. So first we have Nicholas Copernicus. Might not be the first person to come to mind when you go alien hunting, but the astronomer contributed more to the search for ET than you'd think. Copernicus wanted to better describe what was going on in the heavens. In the 1540s, he came to a conclusion that was radically different from popular thought at the time, that Earth, along with other planets in our solar system, orbit around the sun rather than the other way around. Okay, and we have 16th century planet gazing. Italian intellectual Giordano Bruno lost his life for his unpopular stances. One was proposing the possibility of ET. His ideas followed Copernicus' It's his discovery that Earth was neither the center of the universe nor the solar system, but Bruno didn't just side with Copernicus. He also wrote about the possibility of there being other worlds with people, much like us, on them. And we have a couple hundred years later, alien enthusiasts dreamt of using land and fire to connect with potential foreign beings. In the 19th century, German mathematician Carl Friedrich Gauss sought to make extraterrestrial contact in a few ways. He thought up a device called the heliotrope that reflected sunlight towards other planets to craft messages. He also tried to catch an alien eye when he suggested creating a large wheat triangle in the Siberian forest. Gauss figured that the shape would be visible to extraterrestrials at a distance and show that there was intelligent life on Earth. Then from there we go to UFOs in the race for the cosmos. Once humans began exploring space, it became easier to imagine running into an extraterrestrial neighbor. Science fiction became more popular, and so did the idea of intelligent aliens. You probably heard about the conspiracy theories about a UFO of unearthly origin crashing at Roswell in '47. Scrap metal wasn't the only thing found at the crash site. Reports suggest that non-human bodies were found too. Then we go over there to SETI, Ozma Cyclops. By the mid-20th century, researchers were serious about scanning the cosmos for other life, but they weren't exactly sure how to do it. With billions of light years to explore, where do you even start? And from there, the next one is the Drake equation. Following the burst of interest in extraterrestrial life in the early 60s, astronomer Frank Drake came up with a math equation to predict the formation of stars and planets surrounding them. His calculation, called the Drake equation, would help pioneer the research for extraterrestrials in future years. He looked at the statistical chance of other Earth-like planets that can host life. At the Green Bank Conference, where several researchers met, the equation was first discussed. It was suggested that anywhere between 1,000 and 1 billion planets may be home to intelligent extraterrestrial life, according to the Planetary Society History of SETI. Then we continue on a couple more. Exobiology rises up. Around the same time as Drake was messing with mathematics, NASA funded its first exobiology program in 1959 as part of the space program. Exobiology examines the possibility of life outside our planet. Think about it this way: in what conditions would other life be able to survive? What chemicals and temperatures would be good or bad for extraterrestrials throughout the universe? Then we go, SETI finds a home. Before the mid-'80s, SETI was made up of a broad framework of scientists searching for alien life. NASA helped fund the search for ET into the early 90s at centers in Puerto Rico and the Mojave Desert, but U.S. Congress soon cut both programs from its budget. At the time, SETI appeared to be dead. And we have the exoplanets galore. We're hearing more of these. If humans can't get to planets in person, they can at least study the spheres from afar. Fortunately, scientists began discovering planets outside our solar system in the mid-90s. And we have the telescope. Despite a long history of searching for aliens, there's plenty of reason to believe we'll keep looking. For instance, the Allen Telescope Array in the Cascade Mountains has taken the reins in finding ET. As a joint project of SETI Institute and University of California, Berkeley, the telescopes amplify transmissions to look at celestial signals at close level. The project will use more than 350 radio dishes in its scans, but what makes the array unique is the fact that it can situate equipment in several different directions and make a bigger radio ear than ever before. So those are 10 good points along the search for extraterrestrials, the history of the search this planet has made. I didn't read all the info on each one, so you might want to go through and double check. But there you go. That's our UFO news for today. Let me jump away to a song. I'll be right back. Stay tuned.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
Okay. Continuing on. Ron Paul. We're going to start off with him in this next segment. Even though he's not in office anymore, he's still out there and he still has things to say. And this is one of them. Here we go.
Hello, this is Ron Paul with your weekly update for January 21st. Last week, President Obama bluntly warned Congress that he will not negotiate when it comes to raising the statutory debt limit. If Republicans attempt to use a debt ceiling vote to win concessions on spending from the White House, Mr. Obama threatens simply to raise the limit by executive order or other unilateral action. This is business as usual in Washington. Democrats literally do not believe we have a deficit and debt problem and reliably propose greater borrowing and spending. Republicans talk a good game when it comes to government debt, but have no credibility to argue against deficits or abuses of executive power. Brinksmanship ensues and ugly compromise. We all lose as the endless borrowing and money printing further erodes our dollar and our economy. Keep in mind that the federal government spends about $100 billion more each month than it collects in taxes. This means roughly 40% of every dollar Washington spends is borrowed, to be paid back only in highly devalued, newly created money. Ultimately, this can only lead to the destruction of the U.S. dollar, as history plainly teaches. In the face of this reality, Obama just shrugged, turning to demagoguery and talk of little old ladies' Social Security checks. Like Obama, far too many Americans view federal debt as a non-issue. Consider Paul Krugman, America's most reliable Keynesian economist and a beloved figure among mainstream journalists. He recently wrote an article about the debt limit issue in which he discussed a controversial proposal to have the federal government simply create a platinum coin with a face value of $1 trillion. Quote, here's how it would work. The Treasury would mint a platinum coin with a face value of $1 trillion or many coins with smaller values. It doesn't really matter. This coin would immediately be deposited at the Federal Reserve, which would credit the sum to the government's account, and the government could then write checks against that account, continuing normal operations without issuing new debt, close quote. To be fair, Mr. Krugman acknowledges that minting such a coin would be an accounting trick, but he is dead serious about this option for the Obama administration. This, then, is the state of modern economic discourse in America, where a respected New York Times economist literally can propose creating money for nothing and have the idea taken seriously. Krugman's suggestion is just another variant of the endless stimulus proposals, which purport to create greater aggregate demand in the economy by creating more money. Whether this is done by the Fed or the Treasury is of little importance as long as government is creating demand-side growth, however artificial. In just a few short sentences, Professor Hans Hermann Hoppe eviscerates the Krugmans of the world by pointing out the obvious. If governments or central banks really can create wealth simply by creating money, why does poverty exist anywhere else on Earth? Why haven't successive rounds of quantitative easing by the U.S. Fed solved our economic recession? And if Fed money creation really works and doesn't create inflation, why haven't Americans gotten richer as the money supply has grown? The truth is obvious to everyone. Fiat currency is not wealth, and the creation of more fiat dollars does not mean that more rice, steel, soybeans, iPads, or Honda Accords suddenly come into existence. The creation of new fiat currency simply strengthens a fantasy balance sheet, either by adding to cash reserves or servicing debt. But this balance sheet wealth is an illusion, just as the notion we can continue to raise the debt limit and borrow money forever is an illusion. Thanks for calling this update. A new update is placed on this site every Monday morning. Thanks for calling.
All right, very good. Good information. Yeah, that's what we need to do, right? Just create a $1 trillion coin. Okay, all right. Craziness, craziness. Here's a story that I guess this one goes into the category of WTF. I don't know. This is the SSDI. It's the death index. It says right here, in no way is the author of this article claiming that there were no victims shot at the Sandy Hook Elementary School on the 14th. Rather, the article points out a complex false flag operation with very real victims. It is also important to note that this matter is still currently under open investigation by the intelhub.com. Please send any tips or information here. Now here's the weird part. This shooting took place on December 14th, correct? That's what we're told, December 14th. Yet, if we look according to the Social Security Death Index record, Adam Lanza, who we're told was the shooter here, his date of death is listed as Thursday, December 13th. So if this Adam Lanza died on the 13th, how did he shoot people on the 14th? Very interesting. Somebody doesn't have their information correct here. Either the news misprinted information here, or the Social Security Death Index misprinted. Either way, someone's got some splaining to do. Alright, just one of the inconsistencies. Just wanted to point that out. Now here is a piece. You may have seen part of this. I'm going to jump over to 9/11. This is a piece. It's just a 2-minute piece. This is David Chandler, physicist, talking a bit about what went on with the explosion. Here we go.
This is the South Tower of the World Trade Center viewed from the southeast. As it falls, it tips toward the camera. Notice that as the skeleton of the roofline partially emerges from the dust, there are a number of smoking projectiles that look like comets. A number of these objects undergo explosions. Watch the comet-like object at the far right in slow motion. It is the most easily viewed because it shows up against the blue sky. Let's take it one frame at a time. Here we see it flaring. A fragment is ejected to the left. Now the fragment itself splits apart. Let's go back to the earlier explosion. Note that another fragment is being shot down and to the right. It also undergoes a secondary explosion. These explosions may seem small, but the fact that there are explosions at all confirms the presence of explosives in the building.
Okay, I know that there are those out there who want to say, oh no, buildings do that because of the pressure and the air pressure and it's blowing these things out. I know that there are those out there. You know that there are those out there. However, all we can hope for individuals like that is they put on their thinking caps and actually think for themselves, because it's very evident when you watch this that this is not a normal experience you have by a building that caught fire and fell down, right? All right. So today, just to make mention, today we've got the re-inauguration of the Antichrist, the choice of the elite here for America. Now, is he the only Antichrist? I don't know. He certainly fits the pattern of an Antichrist and the things that he does. An Antichrist, what would that be? That would be somebody who is the opposite of Christ. Christ was about love. Christ is about love. The Antichrist would be the opposite of that. He would be about lies and dishonesty. We hear a lot of lies and dishonesty. There's a lot of correlations, but not just with Obama the man, but with Obama's administration, with the military-industrial complex. And unfortunately, we can look back to the prior presidency before Obama of Bush, and there was the same thing. So there's something really rotten going on within our system, some rotten apples that needed to be weeded out because they keep making things bad for everyone. Now we've got this man who's in office who, just keep in mind, February 15th, the Supreme Court is hearing a case, finally, about his eligibility. We'll see how that one plays out. But all the while that this man is going through his inaugurations, most people are blind to the fact that he is going through so much challenges on the backside with the legalities and what have you. So we'll see how it works out. And now that he's been confirmed or re-inaugurated for his second time, and there's been multiple inaugurations this time. He did one yesterday, and now they're doing one again today. I even heard that there might be like another 1 or 2, possibly up to 4 inaugurations that are going to be done. It just doesn't seem that there should be all of these private things that can happen. Maybe they've happened in the past, but they certainly seem to be more publicized now, as if to put it in the face of the people of this is what we're doing and you can't do anything about it. Anyway, let's move on from there. We know what's going on in the world with all of that nonsense. We just need to pay attention because their nonsense isn't going to stop. Now that Obama's got his second term, we'll see if he expands upon some of the things he had put in play during his first term. We'll see how it's going to work out, but remember, light versus dark. There's a man in office who is not who he claims to be, and the light bearers out there need to be aware of this, because all signs and indications point that he is an antichrist, if not the antichrist. So let's just keep our attention to that and not allow ourselves to be fooled, because there's a lot of stuff in the world intended to fool others. All right, so let's jump from there. This is the 3-minute news for today from Suspicious Observers. Here we go.
Good morning, folks. Noctilucent clouds on NASA's Earth Observatory, also called polar mesospheric clouds. A bit of synchronicity, as these are part of a longer video I'm trying to get done for later today. Fingers crossed. But for those who don't know, these are 10 times higher than the wispy cirrus clouds. Scientists were still puzzled over their formation when they also began recently being sighted across the globe. The rare Arctic phenomenon is now neither of those things. Saw the first tremor on the northern mid-Atlantic ridge, got a quick capture, but hours later a swarm had enveloped the region on RSOE. This is a significant swarm in an unusual location. Also at a 5.1 in Nicaragua, 5.7 in northeastern Russia. Volcano in New Zealand not only still active but showing signs of restlessness. 2 cyclones in the area. Oswald was my focus 3 days before he got a name, and I had actually written him off. Meanwhile, Gary is an island threat only. Neither storm will imminently become hellacious, but these are significant events. Staying down under for the storm that hit Chinchilla over the weekend, causing flooding and damage to crops and infrastructure. UK taking the worst of the leading edge of these low-pressure systems. There is a serious dynamic circulation driving air masses of highly different potential together. Once more, we will see high-speed wind gusts and a lot of precipitation. Meanwhile, the Americas ask the jet stream, how low can you go? Arctic air is currently flown south on vacation due to the recent polar vortex split during the sudden stratospheric warming of early January. The wind will continue moving south as some residents in Michigan find themselves in a dangerous situation. Last I heard, power was not fully restored, and with negative temperatures Fahrenheit coming, that's unacceptable. Cosmic ray density falling further, almost under 99. The solar wind speed in yellow dropping after the CME impact. Green temperature dropping as well, while the density in orange is stable. You can see that waning disturbance on the Fluxgate magnetometer. Likewise, the last baseline induction is around 1400 UTC, and fortunately, that last one did allow plasma to briefly penetrate into the system. Rockabye sunshine, quiet as can be since the exit of that big boy. As he departed, just north of the solar equator, another active region was born. This will be a traditional bipolar spreading region where the leading and trailing umbras are opposite polarity, and the development happens in the middle as they spread. Looking now, we can see that development and the beginnings of the magnetic mixing could be gamma class by tonight. So we got this large coronal hole set to face Earth today. but to the right of it something interesting occurred. Energetic surface events appear to have rippled off the edge of the opening in the magnetic field, actually lengthening the bottom leading extension of the coronal hole. Last quake watch only had one significant quake. I wouldn't expect much more now, but the watch is called for based on this coronal hole. Hopefully, I'll get that longer video done shortly. Eyes open, no fear, it's 6:25 a.m. Eastern Time, and that's the news. Be safe, everyone.
Alright, you notice the triangle right here in the sun? Very interesting. Alright. Moving right along. So the other day, I played a piece that was about the Orion constellation, and there had a church where it was showing that the painting in the church and showing how there was correlations between these objects that just again indication that it has been known for a while the associations between Earth and the cosmos. So here's a little bit more information on that particular subject. Here we go.
Hey everybody, hope you all are doing okay. You guys probably remember this rough chart or this rough diagram that I did, but this shows basically the mirror. If you're looking at the three pyramids right here, and up in the sky you have Osiris, and you have the three belt stars right here mirroring these pyramids. And what I tried to show everybody a while back was that if we're facing in this direction, then below those three pyramids you would have the Nile Delta, and that would represent being the Orion Nebula. But what I told you is that this area right here, which represents the trapezium area, I believe that these pyramids were just a marker, because otherwise if they were proportional then the pyramids would be off the map. So they're definitely a marker. But I found something that even strengthens the correlation even more, and I want to show you what it is real quick. Now you guys have probably seen this diagram before. This shows with the Nile turned around that the Orion Nebula trapezium represents the Nile Delta, and the very center of the Orion Nebula trapezium is actually the very center of the Nile Delta. If you can see, there are three gray dots right here, and the very, very center of those three gray dots would be the very center of the Orion Nebula trapezium, which is right where that vortex is. Now here's the interesting thing I found that even emphasizes this even more. Alright, we're on Google Earth, and here are those three gray dots I was telling you about. We'll try to zoom into them right in the very center of this thing. We get this. We can't see what this is for whatever reason, but it's right in the center of those three gray dots, and I believe those are like cities or something like that. But that represents whatever this cloud is that you can't get rid of on Google Earth, represents the very center of the Nile Delta. Well, here's the really interesting thing that kind of brings more focus to this area representing the Orion Nebula. What you're looking at right here is you're looking at the dots. These red dots represent the exact same location. And what you can see right here, see those three dots right there, and that's actually the very, very center of the Nile Delta. But the really interesting thing about it is we have this Orion correlation. And I don't know what kind of a synchronicity this is, but these lines that are right here, if you go and zoom in on Google Earth, we're going to do that in just a second, they are relatively almost the same as the lines that connect to Orion. And these stars, you can actually even overlay this on top of these stars, and it's almost identical. The only one that seems to be a little bit off is Betelgeuse right here, but the Orion correlation is striking. And what I think is really interesting about this is that the very center, which is the very center of the Nile Delta, represents the Orion Nebula. And we also know that this very center of the Nile Delta also represents the Orion Nebula trapezium, the very center of it also. So as you can see, there is this, it's almost like it's almost like here's the bigger picture, here's the smaller picture, here's the smaller picture, and so on and so on. There's these other confirming factors that are going on. I find this correlation right here extremely significant. I don't know how old these cities are that we have right here, but as you can see, the lines of this thing, as we look at this, are almost the exact same as Orion. These stars will overlay almost perfectly on top of this right here. And this area right here that just happens to be that fuzzy spot, we can't view. Let's just take a look inside Google Earth again real quick. We'll make it smaller. And let's take a look. And as you can see, the lines that connect are the same as what we have over here. See? And this area right here represents the center of those areas, and is relatively almost exactly where the Orion Nebula is. I find these kinds of synchronicities and correlations very interesting, and as you can see, this is almost the exact same shape, if not well, extremely close to the Orion constellation. And this area right here represents the Orion Nebula, which also happens to be the very center of the Nile Delta, which we've also seen matches the Orion Nebula trapezium. I think all of these confirming factors, there's something going on here. But I wanted to show this to you guys. There's going to be a link to this on my Facebook public folder, so you guys go and grab it and take a look at it. All right, y'all take care. Talk to you soon.
All right, very good. So interesting correlations. So something to consider. All right, we're going to jump into our meditation for today. So what we're going to do for this meditation is we're going to focus on sending out light to counteract the darkness that's out there in the world. Because especially today in the United States, as I said, we have an inauguration taking place of someone who would appear to be influenced by dark spirits. And if this person and this administration are influenced, like others have, by dark spirits, then a day like today would be a day where there would be a lot of darkness that would kind of come into the mix. So as light bearers, what we need to do is we need to counteract this darkness coming into the world, and that's what we're going to do. All right? So let's go ahead and close our eyes. Relax. Take a deep breath. And exhale. All right, I want you to imagine that you are seated out in your front yard, and you see others throughout the neighborhood sitting in their front yards. And all those chakras are activated from the bottom of the spine up: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, and indigo. And the light continues to the cosmos, and imagine yourself filled with this light, the light of the universe, and all the multicolors of all of the chakras. Now I want you to imagine within you great strength. And I want you to find that strength that you are. And I want you to think about the good that you possess, that you hold, that you are. And I want you to understand and think about the purpose of light shining in the world. And as you think about the purpose of light shining in the world, you're reminded that light shines to dissipate the darkness. And at this point in time, I want you to imagine Washington, D.C. I want you to imagine the White House. And I want you to focus your light towards that White House. to surround it with light and surround it with love, so that any darkness that may present itself is instantly squashed, that any evil that tries to sneak in is dissipated, and in the process of darkness and evil being dissipated, that the light goes further to affect those involved. And as they are feeling the effects of the light, their mind opens to the clarity of what they have done wrong. And as the light continues to affect, we see that the leaders themselves are awakened to all of the wrongs that they have done to humanity. And as we continue to send love and light to this area of the country, we see the darkness dissipate, and along with it each and every one of the individuals who are filled with darkness, that they simply dissipate as well. And if that means all of the supposed leaders of the country are gone in an instant, so be it. But if that light is able to touch their souls and change their souls by moving the darkness and allowing them as individuals to change, then so be it as well. For the work of the Lord, the work of God, is mysterious. But we all know that forgiveness is part of the plan. And we forgive those who have created injustices and problems upon the planet. For we know that is not evil by nature, but just simply greed, out of control. And as we continue to send light into Washington, this light goes to protect all of those who would be influenced by the darkness. And as the light of protection goes around the country, around the world, protecting others from the darkness, that any darkness that does escape has no place to go. And as more people open their eyes to what is going on, and more see the darkness that comes out of places like Washington, our light is able to shine brightly to eliminate the darkness, so that the leaders in Washington can be the leaders they are intended to be. Leaders that operate according to the higher understanding of spirit. Leaders that step away from all of the dark practices and all of the evil ways and warlike attitudes. But that this love and light changes the leaders into being peaceful humanitarians who truly wish to help. Let's imagine these possibilities for the leader of this country and the leader of all countries. That darkness can be eliminated and light can shine bright, so that they can be beacons of light as opposed to anything else. And let's think good thoughts for all of us around the world, knowing that we have the power, each and every one of us, to make a change upon this planet, to make a positive change. We simply need to focus on it and believe that it can be, and it shall. Take a deep breath, and let your subconscious mind continue to be sending out light and love throughout the course of the day. And while you do so, bring your conscious mind back to the intention of the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. All right, there you have it. We've made it through show number 1 of the week. I'll be back tomorrow with more news information. Thanks for being here. Have an awesome day. I will talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.